I'll tell you straight up, I am not a baker. Every time I've tried to make cookies, I end up burning at least one batch. And every time I've tried to make oatmeal raisin cookies for the last 15 years, they turn out too salty, or they turn out too soft or too crisp. There's no such thing as a cookie that's too soft. They turn out like rocks. So I'm not a baker. In my previous life, my ex-husband was the one who did the baking. My kids grew up knowing that Dad baked something, not Mom baked something. So here we go. Mom's gonna give it a whirl. What homesteader woman can't bake? This one. I can bake bread, and I can bake out of a mix. I can't cook frozen pizza. I burn frozen pizza. It's been a long-standing joke in my family with my kids that I burn frozen pizza. So they learned very early that they were better at it than I was. I could bring it home all right, but they had to cook it. So today I'm going to be trying some oatmeal raisin cookies. My friend Dorothy uses the Joy of Cooking. The Joy of Cooking cookbook. It's a really old cookbook that's been around since the 70s. And I found this copy of the recipe online. I got it from, I don't even know, the website's not written on there. Food.com maybe? And it was submitted by Yummy in My Tummy. So I'm going to just go with the Joy of Cooking oatmeal raisin cookies. Let's see what I can do here. It tells me that sifting is very important, and I have to preheat the oven to 350. Let's make sure my racks are in the right place. That should do it. I always forget to move the racks until they're already heated, so I beat it this time. Tick one off for a step in the right direction. Okay, so 1 3/4 cups of flour sifted. Because the bag of flour is noisy, I already measured out the flour. I'm not making these gluten-free this time. I should be eating gluten-free, but I'm going to give this a whirl.
I don't know that.
Apparently I said something that triggered She Who Shall Not Be Named over there on the kitchen counter. Okay, 1 3/4 cups of flour. And 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. This is baking soda. I've been known to mess up baking soda and baking powder. Baking soda. 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. I can see this needing to be sifted. Sometimes these ingredients will get lumpy, and you don't want lumps in it because that's what's going to give you the saltiness. And then 1/2 teaspoon, that's this little guy, of salt. And I am using a sea salt. It's an iodized sea salt, but it's what I've got on hand. Sea salt. 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now the recipe says cinnamon and nutmeg, but the person who submitted this said she also uses ground cloves. I'm not going to mess with the original recipe today. I'm probably not a successful baker because I tend to be, well, let's do this and let's do that. I'm more of a concept cook, so I can do stuff on top of the stove. It doesn't have to be exactly measured to get the results. But with baking, you have to have it measured to get the results, and that's probably where I fail. So I'll stick to this recipe and see what I can come up with. So that's cinnamon and nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon, and that's that. Sifting is important. Flour, baking soda, baking powder, salt, cinnamon, nutmeg. Okay, so I've got those sifted together. Hey, I made it this far. Come on over to the mixer with me. That's the next part. Okay, here comes the messy part. Let's pull up my sleeves and do this right. I don't have an apron. I have to find myself a pretty apron. My butter's not really that soft. It's been sitting on the counter and it's a little cool in here today, but I've broken it up so it'll work a little better. And it says 1 pound of butter, soft, and beat butter, brown sugar, sugar, eggs and vanilla with a hand mixer, I'm going to use this guy, at medium speed. So half a pound of soft butter. And 1.5 cups of brown sugar. I know that when you measure brown sugar, you pack it. So this is packed brown sugar. 1/4 cup of white sugar. I've got organic cane sugar, so it looks a little brown. And 2 eggs. Well, I've got farm fresh eggs. I'm going to give them a wash first. Just a quick rinsing. Make sure I'm not getting any dirt or feathers in my cookies. When I'm cracking fresh farm eggs, I always crack into a dish. I wouldn't want to dump that into my mixer. Okay, that one looks fine. I wouldn't want to dump that into my mixer and find something inside of it. Oh, and that one looks perfect. Okay, and it says to, oh, and vanilla. Oops, almost missed an ingredient. I don't think vanilla would alter the recipe too much. It's a 2.5 teaspoons. Wow, that's a lot. Maybe it would. That might vary according to the size of the eggs you use too. So 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Oop, there's 1.5. Oh, and that's definitely 2.5 without having to use the half spoon measure. I told you I was good at this. Okay, now mix that on medium. Let's lock the bowl so it doesn't go anywhere. I didn't cause an explosion yet. There, that's medium. It looks like butter tart so far. I don't remember my mom baking a whole lot. She did bake occasionally. I remember her doing chocolate haystacks, that's a family favorite, and I remember her doing butter tarts. And occasional, you know, Christmas and holidays and stuff, she would do a pie, and I loved her pumpkin pie, and I don't think she ever made a lemon meringue pie while I was young. I didn't learn about lemon meringue pie until I was married. But oh, the butter tarts. And any leftover pastry when she made pies, she would make like a little cinnamon roll out of it. So cinnamon and raisins and brown sugar, and she'd roll that up. And I think she called that puppy dog tails. I'm waiting for the lumps to come out of it. I think that's been running long enough. The butter is all broken up. It's not creamed the way I would expect it to be creamed. But if I go much further, I'm going to end up with big fluffy whipped eggs, and that's good. I don't think that's right. It just says beat them. It doesn't say for how long. And then it says sift. Yes, again, sift the flour mixture into the butter and mix well. I probably could take this off and mix it by hand, but I'm lazy. I'm gonna do it on slow, really slow, in my mixer. That might be a little tricky with that paddle in the way. Let's remove the paddle for a second. Okay, sift this. Oops. Okay, let's put that paddle back on and wish me luck, folks. Let's lock that paddle down and just slowly, oh, it didn't explode. It says, and mix well. Sift flour mixture into butter mixture and mix well. How many times can you say mix or mixture in one sentence? And fold in raisins or chocolate chips or her favorite chocolate covered raisins and oats. Oh, I'm going to go measure the oats while this is blending. Okay, 1 cup of raisins. I think I'm ready for the next step. I've got 1 cup of raisins. I prefer the Thompson raisins for this, the nice dark raisins. And then 3.5 cups, I'm going to use my bowl because I'm going to make a mess. 3.5 cups of oats. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and it's getting to be too much for that mixer. Do you hear that straining? And there's 3.5. And I'm going to shut that off so I don't kill my machine. Oh, it smells amazing. Okay. I prefer a soft, chewy cookie. What do you prefer? Do you like the crispy ones or do you like the soft ones? And then there's a separate debate. Raisins. Do you like raisins? I love them. This spoon is too soft. This spatula is too soft. I'm going to switch to a wooden spoon. I don't feel like I can get to the bottom of the bowl. These are pretty firm, but there's a lot of butter in there. There's a whole pound of butter in there. So they should scoop beautifully, and they should, yeah, they should melt nicely and spread nicely. Okay, now to put them on a cookie sheet and make sure I don't burn the darn things. Come on over to the other counter. So the notification went off on my stove so that I know that it's preheated. I know that's one thing that I'm supposed to do. I prefer scooping cookies with a scoop rather than 2 big tablespoons. You can do it with 2 big tablespoons, but I find I'm more consistent with a scoop. As I was reaching in the drawer for my scoop, I remembered that I did 10 years at Tim Hortons, mostly working in the back, decorating donuts and making cookies. So I know how to do this part of it, but those cookies were from a mix. You put them in the big Hobart mixer, and you would you'd add water, right? It was very basic. You might add eggs and water, and I could do that. And I was doing 40-pound batches at a time. Some days there were 120 pounds of cookies that had to be done. I've lined the sheet with parchment paper so they don't stick, because I'm sure that I'm going to scorch something and burn them, make them stick. These cookies, this pan will hold 12, but this pan is smaller. I don't think it'll hold 12, so I'm only going to put 6 or 8 on there. And if cookies blend together, I'll have some square cookies. Or I'll have one big cookie I have to break apart. Okay, there we go. Next, put them in the oven. How long do I have to put them in the oven for? My trusty old recipe. I need to keep that with me. Bake at 350, which has already heated up, and it says spoon 1.5-inch balls onto non-stick cookie sheet. Well, the parchment paper makes it non-stick. Bake at 350 for 6 to 9 minutes, rotating halfway through baking. She who shall not be named over there on the counter, she's my timer. If I didn't have a timer there, I would be using a timer in my phone because, yeah, ADHD, I'm going to be distracted. I'm going to want to go sit down and I'm going to completely lose track of time. That's why things get burnt. So electronic timers might be the saving grace to me being able to bake. Be careful, oatmeal raisin cookies don't look done when they are. Oh dear. So they are very easy to overcook, unless you want them crispy. I like a little bit of both. We're okay with that. So Here we go, 6 to 9 minutes, rotating halfway through. So that's 4.5 minutes. 4 minutes, I'll rotate them. Nah, 3 minutes, I'll rotate them just so I can watch. 6 to 9 minutes is a bit of leeway. Yep, that cookie sheet is too long. See what I mean? I don't even know if the cookie sheet fits in my oven or not. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes. Look at that, the timer's gone off and for 3 minutes, and the first 3 minutes I washed my dishes or threw them in the dishwasher. My kitchen is cleaned up already, ready for cooking dinner in a couple of hours. Gotta rotate those cookies. There we go. I rotated them top to bottom, and I rotated the pan so if there's a hot spot, the cookies don't get scorched on one spot and raw on the other because they've been turned. Setting the timer again for 3 more minutes. I looked at this recipe and I thought 6 to 9 minutes isn't very long. Those cookies that I just rotated at 3 minutes are nowhere near even halfway. So I asked she who shall not be named on the countertop how long to bake cookies, oatmeal raisin cookies, at 350 degrees. And she says, excuse me, Alexa, shut off the timer. Did you know you can change her name? I have to get hubby to look into that. So 6 to 9 minutes doesn't seem very long. She suggests that it should be 15 to 18. So let's see what we've got here, how long this really takes. 6 minutes right now. They're not cooked completely, but they're getting there. Maybe 9 minutes is right. I'll find out. Alexa, set a timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
Those of you who have a device on your counter are going to hate me for this video. Okay, I'm a dum-dum. Here I am, so excited that I got the dishes done so that I don't have to think about that again. I forgot I have 2 more cookie sheets, and I could be scooping the next batch of cookies, getting them ready to go in. Oh, I could have been saving some time. And the ADHD brain says, oh yeah, don't forget your cookie cooling rack. All right, let's check these out. Oh, the glasses though. What do we think? They're really still too soft. I'm going to put them in for another 3 minutes. So that was 9 minutes already. Let's see what happens with 3 more. That looks more like it. Doesn't that look better? Yeah, that cookie's solid now when I move it, and it's nice and toasted on the bottom. What do you think, Dorothy? Did I do it right? Uh-oh, here comes my husband. I think he can smell them. They're too hot. You can't eat them yet. Okay, I've got the last tray scooped up. This recipe says it makes 42 cookies. I got 47. And that's okay with me. They're just a little smaller. When my hubby came in the kitchen, he said they used to buy cookies in the school cafeteria that were this big. I said, we don't need cookies that big. And he says, don't we? I don't need cookies that big. Maybe I'll make some later, and I'll make, the next batch I might make some huge cookies, and I'll make some standard size cookies. I certainly don't need a cookie that's the size of 4 cookies in one. All right, what's the next step? Oh, I set the timer for 6 minutes this go around because that first batch took 12 minutes. So I'll turn it halfway and I'll probably set it for the 6 again and just keep an eye on it. And then this last little tray. This probably will be the tray that I burn. Cross my fingers. I'm doing good so far. That timer makes all the difference in the world. Now I got some more dishes to wash. Look at those cookies. They turned out perfect. I haven't tried one yet, and I had to shoo the hubby off of them because he wanted to try them. But I'm going to put some in the I'm going to put some away because I need the cooling rack for the next batch that's due to come out in just a few minutes. And I forgot to set the timer. Alexa, set a timer for 4 minutes.
4 minutes, starting now.
This one came out really nice and toasty on the bottom. They're not too bad. They still feel soft. I will be happy to eat those. Plastic is probably not the best way to store these, but it'll get us through for a couple of days, and that's how long they're going to last. It's just a couple of days. Yes, we'll go through 40 cookies in a couple of days. And there's only 2 of us. Yikes. Maybe I better freeze some. Oh, Danny, I have some cookies for you. Oh, it's a little warm in his kitchen now, and I'm flushing. That's part of being the age that I am. Anyways, milk and cookies for myself or my husband. They're not gluten-free, but you know I'm going to eat them anyways. I don't have tummy trouble from gluten. I get a rash, so you can see. I've been indulging. Now, they all came out fine. I didn't burn any. The last batch is in the oven right now, and I do have a timer set for that. And I think that the timer might be the key that was missing in all of my years of messing up cookies. I did it fine when I was at work, but you know what? There was a timer on the oven. So that might be the key that helps me to become a baker. This is a skill that I want to develop. We don't move to the homestead knowing it all. We learn things along the way. I didn't know how to raise chickens or any of the things about building a decent coop. I didn't know about keeping eggs on the counter. I've learned these things all as I go. And it's been a journey. This is 2 years almost. On November 13th, it will be 2 years since we moved into this place. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you next time. Cookies and milk. Mm-mm-mm.